So, such preview tests help to understand what we should do next and allow shaping the further action plan. So we see in real-time mode that here it became darker on the house. We can lift the exposition a bit, make it brighter. Then also highlight and make compress a bit higher. So that's one thing. Second, we have glades somewhere here, and it's fixable. Next, here in the lower right corner, we have a hole. We'll have to move these rocks a bit. Then we need to set the water material and to work with the soil and to replace the texture on the dock. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Pressing stop, and we'll start with the simplest thing. I'll move these rocks. Over here. And so we see that rocks lack detailing because displacement was lost due to the fact that we converted the object in proxy, and displacement had the modifier form, so it was lost. Although it's present here and yet not activated. Let's set the max level to 10 centimeters. And same with these rocks. Displacement activated. Setting max level to 10. Well, we can decrease it if required. For the rocks, I suggest to change the mesh color to some other color, like blue, for example. We will then have a possibility to change everything in Photoshop. This is why we do it. Next, let's work with material of water. Let's launch the real-time render to see the real state of things. It may be lagging, but we'll be able to correct everything in real-time mode. So we have our real-time mode started, but I was hasty with displacement. Let's take a step back. So I'll highlight with region and set the max level value to 2. All right, not bad. But I'll have to set the displacement accuracy in order to be able to make sure that it works more correctly and smoothly. And for this, we'll have to enter system settings and to change the screen size displacement from 3 pixels to 1. Now we'll see what's the difference, but memory consumption increased greatly. Not sure the real-time mode will update now correctly, but it should be. So after we change this value, let's wait and see. Let's see what we have in terms of performance. Now we have 11 gigs of memory, right? We can close the second 3D Max with plans to save external memory. Okay, it looks more precise now. Done. Now it's time to set water. And I'm not going to hide the trees, although it would be useful to hide the layer with water for speed and performance. I'll hide it temporarily, and then we'll see how it all is going to look like with water. Deactivating the trees layer, and render speed increased immediately. But the image became lighter, which may confuse us. All right, creating the new Corona material. Let's call it water. In the diffuse parameter, choosing black. Setting reflect parameter to 1. We don't have the Fresnel to be too close to water, so we're gonna do the following. We'll make the reflection dark and lift the Fresnel, setting the reflection parameter to 1. And further, we have to set the absorption for water with suspended material and some fine algae. We don't need mountain spring water. We need lake water. Let's assign this material to water. We already see that we're on the right way, but it's still far from perfection. The next setting is absorption. Setting the volumetric and SSS parameter, selecting the brown and greenish color, typical for lake water. Let's make distance depth of about 50 centimeters at the moment. So we have the following absorption. We'll make color saturation a bit lower. Now let's address the reference. See how water looks there. They have the stronger blue and green hue. I think that we need to make the blue color more intense. I think it's okay like that. Now we make absorption to 30. Our house is reflected here. I think I'll decrease saturation a bit. I like it much more this way. Now we'll have to add ripple. So let's go to slate material to make the material setting easier. Here on slate, I'll sample water. And now setting bump and adding a map to bump. Let's use composite here. I'll take the composite map and I'll mix several types of ripples. First option will be larger, the other one will be fine, and the third one, waves. The composite map is perfect for this. We're setting it to bump, first taking the noise, simple procedural, then setting it on the first layer, and we see the ripple. Although it's too large, so we just decrease the size parameter in noise, and let's make it 10. And here we go. It doesn't look very good now, not fully atmospheric. And let's try fractal noise. And it makes it look better. We'll reduce the bump force more. Now let's add another ripple, adding new layer and composite, and adding new noise over the second layer. Setting here as well, making the fractal 1, reducing the size a bit, for example, 7. And change the overlapping mode and composite, changing the overlapping type from normal to lighten. Now we have two types of ripple, a larger and smaller. We can now decrease opacity. I made 50, and it has already become a bit more interesting. And I'd like to make waves now. For this, the standard waves map is provided, plus the smoke map. We can try it as well. Adding another layer. The third one. Smoke should be decreased. Size parameter by 20 or so. And the smoke map looks good in general. Let's put it over the composite and the lighten mode. As you see, the ripple is more complicated already. Now creating another layer with the procedural waves map. It's the fourth layer. We'll first set the waves themselves, making the wavelength, for example, 30. Let's decrease the wave radius by 10. Actually, let's decrease even more. They appear to be large anyway. And we can view the map itself. The map isn't completely adequate so far because our minimal length is more than maximal. Let's set the minimal length to 3. And we'll have this ripple. We'll make a larger number of sets and play a bit with the values, at least 8. Now we already have cool waves. Looks more like a lake. Alright, let me increase the number of sets. I can change the amplitude. There are loads of settings. Distribution, 2D, 3D. So I need the waves to be so light in the end. Okay, and composite applying in the overlay mode. See the ripple, waves, looks like water, but it looks a bit aggressive and I'd like it to be more calm. So I'll go ahead and decrease it tenfold in Corona material. Make it 0.1. And here's our water with beautiful ripple. Light waves, looks very beautiful now. Now since we have the real time render launched, and I already completely satisfied with water, let's first make water color light blue to improve it further. And we also have rocks, and I'd like them to be kind of wet. And we can achieve that by using Corona distance. So let's sample this material. I'll make a new view. Now, using diffuse, I want to make the material of stones to look wet, bottom up. And to do this, we can do the following. We should mix two diffuse maps. We can use mix, or we can use composite. So let's be professionals and use composite. Setting diffuse to the first layer, and I'll make another layer and composite. And we'll set corona distance here in this layer. Here I found the distance map, setting it to the second layer. And let's enter corona distance settings to specify water as an object. And here we have this cool gradient in real-time render. But we'll make the gradient lower, around 50 centimeters, to achieve a distorted mask. We can set some structure and distance scale. We'll set any dirt mask, for example. Such as this one. Not bad. But let's change distance overlay mode and composite. So let's go ahead and change to multiply. And now our stones are getting darker if they approach water. And due to this, they become more realistic. And we can change texture to the one less aggressive, maybe. This will make it look much more interesting. Now we should select material for the dock. In fact, it's neither interesting nor difficult. Let's better work with soil. Taking our soil, sampling it, and checking the displacement. The map has add displacement, but we should increase stamping. So let's set it to 10, because the surface there should be much more expressed. Here it's removed, which is not good. Let's fix that. And finally, it's high time to texture the dock. So let's look for a suitable texture. Maybe we'll find some old tree. Not bad. And search tools indicating the size over 4 megapixels. Of course we can dig them for hours, but we need some dark wood. Not with boards, but with a solid set. Alright, let's decrease from 4 megapixels to 2 megapixels. The texture shouldn't be too ginger. And by the way, we can look for it at textures.com. Alright, this one's splendid. Let's try this one. Size is small, but so it goes. Our dock is far away, so not a big thing. Alright, so I'm going to create a new material. Corona MTL. Have this texture in downloads. Should not forget to transfer this texture. Otherwise, I'm going to lose it. Setting at bitmap. Assigning. Setting the reporting display. Of course, I want to turn all these beams, so it would better turn through 90 degrees. And here we'll retexture it a bit. So in UVW map, choosing gizmo and turning it. Like so. Not bad. Now to make it more realistic, we should randomly rotate all these cylinders for the texture not to look similarly. There we go. Now we can apply the attach. The material is made simple. We'll take the same texture assigned to bump, the same to reflection glossiness, and here reflection will be set to 1. Let's watch the preview. Setting reflection glossiness through color correction. Okay, connecting the standard color correction to reflection glossiness. We can make the black and white texture in color correction, for example. Monochrome. And increase the gamma parameter. It will bring us some more beautiful reflections. Because the texture should not be glossy, it should contain some specks. And by the way, we'll add the same composite to diffuse, to make everything work in the same way. From water, these are our stones. They work with composite, and we will be using this composite and material through distance in the same way. Here we should create a new layer, and now we're connecting the same mask as that working on stones to the layer number 2 and the multiply mode. Saving the scene, making a small preview to see if everything's fine. Then I'll make a little break, and then we'll continue our masterclass. Activating the layer with trees. And sending it to render. And while it's rendering, we're not gonna waste time. And off screen, I downloaded this scene for Forest Pack. The scene for GJ grass with different small stones and grass. I'm gonna share this scene with you now. I also optimized and transferred separately models from the 21st Max Tree compilation. So here we have some interesting plants, looking like some sedge, lower, some regular grass, and leaves. I don't know for now what exactly I'm going to use out of these. I just added all. Now I need transfer all this to proxy. I tie the textures anew, clicking Shift T and asset tracking and checking all paths for correctness. Now transferring to proxy. I think that will not transfer absolutely everything to proxy. There's no need to transfer leaves, for example. Now, as for grass and the rest, we have to do this. So I'll leave the leaves and transfer all the rest to proxy. Left click opens the menu, Corona Proxy Exporter. So let's leave the default path, full mesh. While it's transferring to proxy, we'll watch this scene under Forest Pack. Of course, I'm not going to use Forest Pack. I decided to use Multiscatter instead. So let me now copy all this asset into the scene. Branches and stones. Also dirt. All of this looks incredible. So we'll make use of it all. I'll fill a couple of free slots in Copyter in the second scene. It's already transferred to proxy. I'll use Copyter here as well. As you see, I have now launched 3 3D Maxes. Let's see what we have with render here. The render is running for a rather long time, so I'll wait now for some first preview, which will help us to understand which way to move further. 3 passes run, and we can already see the preview. There's some obvious disadvantages in the 3D scene, and I see the poor visualization of this rock because there's diffuseness of some kind which always appears at scanning. So we can fill these sites a bit with geometry, sticks, branches that I showed you earlier. The bush here is growing through the rock, which is not a problem. We'll remove it in Photoshop, or we'll move a bush a bit. Next we have a huge color difference in soil and rocks. Soil is green and the rocks are kind of pink. Again, it's not a problem. We'll correct that in Photoshop with wire mask. Just add the masks and we'll do it in Photoshop. Next we also have some strange texture in the fireplace. so we'll have to fix it. On the whole, the materials look good, even following the expert from W-Ray. I think that I'll have to just to improve metal a bit to make it look more like metal. I'll just add gray, and moreover I'll have to work with detailing, add some plants, ferns. I've already thrown into the scene some of those. I'll add some vegetation, canes here, and the most important, close all of these glades. I think that we're gonna do another scatter. Add bushes, and then we'll close all of these glades. There's no need to render further. As you see, the picture looks nice, also with total number of 50 passes, and I think that should be more than enough. All right, let's start improvement. We can scatter bushes, creating a multi-scatter. In order to understand where each scatter belongs, it's preferable to place the scatter close to the objects we're gonna generate. So I'll check whether I've selected the right object. I did, and these bushes too. Without assigning the surface now, let's set all the parameters. Accidental turn, setting rotate to 360 degrees. Random scales from 80 to 120. The next max count parameters will be 1000 and preview for 100. Now this scatter we assign it to the surface. I think that some objects are too large. Okay, let's make the preview as boxes. And limit with this spline. Now let's see. Let's see what it looks like. Seems like not enough objects. We need more. Let's make preview 1000. A small prompt. In order to close these glades on our render, for sure, we'll just make all these bushes lower than the soil area. So we'll make a random shift. It's the move parameter along the z-axis from 0 to minus 200 for sure. Now our objects will be randomly falling a bit lower, and thus will close all the glades. All right. Now let's go ahead and decrease the preview in order not to overload viewport. I'll return the number of previews to 100 and make the display for rocks as bounding box. All right, now let's hide bushes and trees to work with the house materials. All right, let's work with the house material. So we can now even activate the real-time preview to see how materials work. But for now, I will do all this by sight. Let's sample it. It'd be easier for me to work in compact material editor because there are loads of various submaterials, and this makes the workflow really complicated. So it's all in IDs, and let's see which ID is responsible for what. This must be some metal. On this object, we have the ID number 3, metal black material. Good. Let's make Fresnel a bit more intensive. It's metal, after all, so we need it to reflect better. Setting the value 4. I'm not going to change the mask, it looks good on reflection here. Moving to the tree material. So this material works through multi-texture. I think that reflections are missing a bit. Let's increase glossiness parameter. Now we should make this texture brighter in color correction. Let's set it to 5. Now we have specs, and material looks more interesting. But now I'm concerned by this metal the most. This is ID number 4. It appears to be some tree. And I thought this was metal. So let's come up with some mask for this material also. Let's go ahead and take the glossiness map. Reflection parameter about 100. It's better make this material metal. I can't agree that it's wood. I'm not sure. So we'll increase Fresnel and see which map is on reflection glossiness. Here's a tree anyway. Okay, we'll leave it as it is. Just the material was not set really correctly. Then let's move to slate material, and I will set this material ID instead of 4, if I'm correct. Returning Fresnel to 1.6. Since wood is the electric material, Fresnel will be lower. Let's make a complete reflection glossiness map and work with the map itself. It should be made with higher contrast. Let's use the standard color correction map on reflection glossiness. And let's just go ahead and make it lighter. And then the material will play as it should. I don't think reflection is required here. We'll put the same map on bump. There's even some ambient occlusion here. Let's make stains on reflection more interesting by mixing all of this. I'll take composite map on glossiness and add one more layer in composite. We'll add the streak texture to this layer to make the map look more interesting. Let's have a look in the mask library and select not a very aggressive map, this one with spots. I'll overlap it in the overlay mode. Also, let's make it a little bit lighter. Doesn't look nice in the overlay mode. Let's make it in the lighten mode and see how this map looks like. Doesn't look bad at all. But there are more flecks. The fireplace is left. I think that we're not gonna light the fireplace at all. There are some smoldering logs there. Let's see how this material looks in real-time mode.